Hold on, let me. Okay, phone's on vibrate. Everything's all good.
I think, yep, my phone is on silent. It's faced up so I can see it. I don't need water, but I guess just in case I do, I will open up my water bottle now.
I don't have anything because I don't want to get up to pee later.
Ah, shit, you're right. I'll just put this away.
That a full 180.
I'm ready. You ready? You good?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. Hello and welcome to this episode of Up Until Now. I'm your co-host JD.
I'm your other co-host, Andrew.
And I want to take the time to thank you for sticking with us for 14 whole episodes. And I don't know about Andrew, but I'm super excited about this episode topic because this is the topic that we did not learn jack shit about in school. Like, nothing.
No, sir.
I think the only topics that I learned about this specific theme that we're going to be going with today has been how to write a check and how to invest in the stock market. Both with which that we do not even fucking use, and I'm too poor to even invest in the stock market.
All I learned about this was that money is good to have, and it sucks to not have it.
Now, with this episode of Up Until Now, we wanted to really be financially focused on this because almost every single episode that we've recorded has brought up this topic of finances and how we kind of dictate how we use our money and how we decide to put certain amounts of cash in certain bank accounts. I know that for me personally, finances has never really been a topic that I wanted to learn about, but working full time and starting getting like a steady flow of income, I didn't know what to do with the money that I had. The more money I made, the less money that I personally actually had to spend.
So for me, I guess it kind of was like that, but at the same time, it wasn't just because my family owned a business and like I was forced to pretty much learn what financing was. But like in the aspect of a business, not for personal use.
Using finances for business and personal use are very, very different because I know nothing about like business financing, which is one of the reasons why I want to partner with Andrew because Andrew's family owned a business, so he kind of understands that. I've never owned a business, so it's kind of hard to say. Personal finance, I've been investing a lot of my time and my efforts to learn personal finance just so I can help myself and essentially prepare for the future financially because you can plan and plan all you want, but if you don't plan financially, you can't end up where you want to be in 5 years from now.
I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, I'm just like you, but kind of the opposite. I think you're very well versed in personal financing now. I mean, obviously not back then or anything like that, but now you are more steady in personal finance than I am, only because of our circumstances, I believe. But I feel like me and you are kind of in the same level of an understanding on what we have to do and what we should do.
Exactly. And it's not even just finding things that we have to do or should do, it's just actually implementing that and actually doing the things that we need to do in order to prepare for our lives financially.
Right.
And the easiest way to make an analogy of finances, I heard, was a lot like a road trip. I heard that finances is a lot like a road trip, and you need to plan a road trip in order for you to get to your end goal or to that end destination. If you don't plan and you just kind of, we'll kind of sort of eventually end up in Seattle, you're never going to really make it to Seattle because you don't have a plan to get there. And it also, there's a lot of bumps and there's a lot of incidences and situations that could happen along your financial road trip. And you kind of have to either sidestep it or you have to find alternative, I guess, routes or alternative things to do in order to, again, reach your destination, which is financial independency, specifically in this topic and in this situation.
You know, that's really interesting. I never heard it like that. And I kind of really like your method of analogy of it.
I heard that too. And I'm like, oh shit. Andrew and I went on a road trip and putting my finances in that kind of analogy really made me understand like, this isn't just, I'm just going to save $500 so I can buy an iPad. It's not like that at all. It's more like, I am like setting myself up financially in the future to put a $40,000 down payment on a house. Like that's just, when you think of $40,000, you think that's a huge fucking number. Mm-hmm. But when you break it down and you plan for it like a road trip, it makes it a lot easier and you can like knock off like destination step points to get there.
Yeah. And like the cool part is like you can see your progress in that map that you created.
Exactly. And what we're trying to do here in this episode is kind of show you our personal financial roadmaps. And again, to be very, very upfront about it, everyone's financial situation is very, very different. Personal finance and the plan that you have is very subjective as to if it'll work for you or if it'll work for somebody else. It's just, there's not a one size fits all scenario. What works for me doesn't work for Andrew. What works for Andrew probably won't even work for you either. So you kind of have to take bits and pieces of what you learn by pursuing your financial learning journey and take little bits and pieces that you like and little bits and pieces that you know you can accomplish. And that's how you're going to build that financial plan for yourself and not just follow somebody else's plan to be like, well, I don't make $1 million a year. How am I supposed to, like,
Right.
we don't make $1 million. No fucking way. We're only 25.
Right. Even me and you alone, like, it's very different on what I make and what you make. So it like our maps are going to be very different even now.
And I think just the basis of what we're trying to accomplish are very, very similar. And I think everyone that listens to this podcast will hopefully get something out of it that kind of gets their mind turning about their own personal finance and savings.
Wait, so I have a question to start off.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I know there are a lot of people who have credit cards now. When did you first get yours?
Let's see. I got my first credit card at 22 years old.
22 years old.
22 years old. I think it's partially because my parents also try to push that age as far as possible. But also, I didn't think I was financially ready to get a credit card at 18 when I was able to. A lot of people, when they get a credit card, they're like, oh, this is just free money, quote unquote, you know?
Right.
They're like, I have $5,000 extra that I can spend. That's not it at all. That's bullshit. Don't try to think that way, because if you do, then that's how you dig yourself in like $50,000+ of credit card debt alone. Your credit card is not free money. It's just
Borrowed money.
It's an instant loan is exactly what it is.
Right.
There are a lot of things that even people that have credit cards don't understand what they're paying for.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, I know certain people, I won't name names because it kind of, I won't name names. But I know a person that didn't even know what the APR or the annual percentage rate meant in their credit cards, but they have accumulated $10,000 of credit card debt, but they didn't even know what the APR meant.
Holy crap.
So I had to sit down and tell them, this is what it means, and this is why your overall debt is not going down.
It's probably going up.
Exactly. And they didn't understand why, because they're paying a little bit over the minimum, because that's what they were taught, which is, again, a very, very good strategy, is to pay a little bit over the minimum. But they just didn't see the return of watching their debt dwindle, but instead their debt was staying the same, if not, like what you said, getting up higher, because they didn't understand that every single payment that they had on their card was accumulating that APR, or the annual percentage rate interest, and they were just like, what the fuck? Like, oh shit, no wonder like I've been in debt for 5 years.
Yeah.
What I guess we can do now is talk about APR and what that actually means. So the APR, or the annual percentage rate, is how much the credit card companies charge you to use their services or use their instant loans that they have in a form of a credit card. Now, that APR is not a monthly thing. They don't charge you 25% every month. No, that's ridiculous. It's every year. That's how much they charge you. Let's say, for example, you have a 24% APR rate, and that's actually that's pretty high.
But that's pretty standard for first credit card owners and our age.
Exactly. So if you have a 24% interest rate, what happens is they divide that by 12, and they charge you that specific percentage every month.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a 24% interest rate, they're charging you 2% of whatever debt that you have on your credit card, and they're adding it to your credit card. You have $1,000 on your credit card, and you have a 24% APR, finance, interest, whatever. They're charging you $20 every month to keep that debt on your credit card, and you use that money, or you use that money to buy whatever, you use it, but you're paying that extra $20 every month. So that's how the interest works.
And you know, a key thing that you have to keep in mind is they got me on this because I just blew it off. They get you by saying no interest for a year. That's how they get you. Like, I didn't pay interest for a full year when I first got my credit card, and after that year mark ended, they charged me the next month, and I was so confused. I was like, what? What is this? I don't remember purchasing something for this, or why am I being charged this? And they're like, oh, your contract ended for the 1 year of no interest payments. And that, I mean, it didn't screw me over, but it just hit me with surprise because I just wasn't thinking about that.
Exactly. And sometimes you even have to read the fine print on those interest-free or 0% introductory interest rate, because sometimes they even accumulate the interest that you would have had paid. And if you didn't pay it on time, they would charge that entire amount onto your credit card.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. Like, you have to read the fine print. And that's why with Esther and I financially, like, we talk about each and every single credit card that we have and how the free interest rate either works with our purchases or other things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some credit cards get even more complicated than that, where they say, oh, you get 0% APR for the first 3 months, but then, for all the purchases in the 3 months, but then you get that interest for like the whole year. But it's still really confusing because after the 3 months, they're still charging you interest with every purchase that you make. Man, credit cards know how to get you, which is why they work so efficiently. And that's why credit card companies are making a lot of money, because a lot of people don't understand how they can get $5,000 and they think that it's free money, but in fact, they're paying so much more than $5,000. And the credit card companies are like raking in the benefits. And a person told me once, like, I explained to them like what APR is. They're like, oh, so that's how credit card companies make money. I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like, they make a shit ton of money on people that don't know, which is a lot of our age group. Every single time there's like an 18-year-old that opens up a credit card not knowing that like they're going to like spend $8,000 and then have like a 26% interest rate that is going to just slap on there. And they just like, oh, well, I didn't know. I thought that money was mine.
Yeah, and the worst part is, especially like personally speaking, when I first got a credit card, I didn't know what any of this meant, obviously, because I wasn't educated from school or anything like that. But to me, 25% sounded so low. I honestly feel like that's how they get you too, especially like if you have like our kind of mindset, like the younger kids that are first getting their credit cards and that aren't educated on this. They go like, oh, it's only a 25% interest rate. Like they use that.
Exactly. And like it gets to the point where like, oh, if I spend $1, if I don't pay off in a year, they're only going to take an extra quarter. That's not that bad. But then they forget that it accumulates every month. And it's just, oh man, that's how people get so entrenched in debt. Like, I mean, for a long ass time, up until like maybe like 2016, the credit card debt was the highest amount of debt in the entire country, only to be surpassed by student loan debt. But that's something we'll go into detail for later, because that is a whole another fucking can of worms, because student loans they're a fucking trap. They're a trap, man.
Oh yeah. Another like really enticing thing about credit cards is their reward system. I freaking love it. Like the more you use money on your credit card, the more points you earn. And with points, you could redeem them for either cash back or special gifts they have in their system, or, like travel points or anything like that. And I remember I purposely only used my credit card so I can try accumulating points, because I personally thought the gifts in their systems were freaking awesome.
Yeah, but then you don't realize that you're actually paying a lot more than that item actually costs in order to get that item.
No.
It's like a loot box, like in a game, like you keep getting these loot boxes and these loot crates because you're like, oh shit, like this is amazing. But in the back of your mind, you spent $100 on coins or tokens to buy those loot boxes. And you're just like, okay, now I understand why like games like Fortnite or any of those like free to play games even win. Like it's the same concept here.
Yeah.
They entice you with rewards and prizes, because that's how they got me on my first credit card. Like my first credit card, as nerdy as it sounds, was a Best Buy credit card. I opened that credit card and I was on their customer service line all the time, just asking questions about my credit card and how it works, because I bought a $2,000 laptop on my credit card. I was like talking to all of like the credit card companies, and I was trying to like weed out information from them, because they don't want to tell you these things because then they lose money.
Mm-hmm.
But in my head, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to keep like nagging at that, keep picking at them with like these annoying ass questions until they give me all the answers. Well, that's how I learned. And that kind of brings it into how to get your first credit card and how to like shop for your first credit card. I know for me personally, I opened up my Best Buy credit card because I shop at Best Buy all the time. Like I buy technology, and I think it was back in episode 10. I explained that Esther and I, we both love technology. We love to have like the latest and greatest technology. And I mean, it all comes up with a cost because technology, as you all know, is ridiculously expensive. It is expensive, and it's not getting any cheaper. That's why I picked the Best Buy credit card, because I know I'm going to be shopping there a lot, and they give me reward points. But on top of that, the Best Buy credit card offers me financing. One of my purchases that I made on my Best Buy credit card was my Sony a7 III camera. After taxes and everything that I bought on that day, it cost about $2,400. The only reason why I decided to buy that at that time was because Best Buy offered me a 2-year financing agreement where over the course of 2 years, they're not going to charge me any interest whatsoever on that $2,500 purchase. I have like another 10 months to pay off $1,000, which is very doable. It also allows me to use that camera as an investment for my side hustle, which is a freelance photographer. Using those kind of reward programs, using the free financing that retailers like Best Buy or Apple, even Apple has those Apple credit cards, like using those programs and using the 0% APR financing and really focusing in and being like, okay, I can buy this. It'll be an investment because this item is going to make me more money than I put into it. So that's how I kind of saw that opportunity specifically with my camera and my Best Buy credit card to really rack up all the investments that I'm going to put into it, you know? So that's personally the reason why I chose a Best Buy credit card, and that's how it works.
So for me, it was when I first got my credit card, I opened up a separate bank entirely just for this credit card because I did a lot of research on credit cards with each individual banks that were near me. So at the time, I was using Fifth Third, and I decided to go with Chase for my credit card because when I looked into all of it, the APR was lowest through Chase for me, and the amount of perks that I get with it was most beneficial for me at the time. At the time, I was making steady money at my family's business, so I didn't need to worry about, being in debt or anything like that, and I was able to pay off immediately what I was spending. And with that mindset and that situation, for me, all I did was spend it on things that I casually needed, like if I was going to go out and eat, because I was still living with my parents back then. So I didn't need to worry about rent or electricity or any kind of bills. So that was the lucky part. And all I did was rack up points using that. And with Chase Unlimited, I got a higher extension on how much I can use, along with more points per dollar.
That's what I actually heard as well. Like Chase credit cards are actually very, very good for first-time credit card openers. Mm-hmm. Their rewards program and also the leniency that they have when it comes to increasing limits and also when it comes to potential late payments. I've heard that Chase Bank, I've heard it from Esther because Esther also has a Chase credit card. They're very, very good and very nice about things like that. What I noticed for Chase specifically is that's how they entice you. That's how they get you to stay at Chase and continue using their credit card. I mean, I was looking at Esther's Chase credit card the other day, and I'm like, holy shit, her limit is like $12,000.
Holy.
I know, right? It's insane. Like, she has an insane limit for her Chase credit card, and I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Esther is the kind of person that will just spend the credit card because her philosophy is, if I have a full-time job, I will eventually pay it off.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
That's not a good philosophy to have if you don't make enough money on in the first hand, but that's her philosophy, and that's how she uses her credit card. Now, Chase, based on her spending, understands that, and they keep increasing the limit because the higher the limit gets, the more money she spends, and the more money the interest accumulates. Mm-hmm. So that's how Chase was making money off my fiance.
So a good example on that about Chase being nice is there was one time where I thought I made a payment, and I did. it just never processed properly. They called me immediately and said, hey, I noticed that this is your first, missed payment. We're not going to charge you anything. We'll give this a freebie. Don't even worry about it. We'll just add it on top of your next month. And customer service like that makes you want to stay even more.
And it increases your sense of loyalty to Chase and their credit card system.
Like as soon as that happened, like I was so grateful to Chase. I just spent more money. I was like, oh my God, I have an extra $200 I can spend this month.
That's how they get you. That's what I heard for Chase is that a lot of people open up the Chase card as their first card, but they get stuck with it because of all the nice incentives that they have, especially coming out to like new credit card owners, especially young and, how do I say it?
Reckless.
Impulsive spenders. Reckless/impulsive spenders. That's how Chase gets you. So when you're trying to open up a credit card, you essentially have to shop around. You have to know like what you want from the credit card before you open it and how you're going to pay for it at the end. And I think people are just like, no, I just want a credit card just for emergencies. But then it becomes, oh, an iPad, emergency purchase, swipe. And it's just like, well, shit, now I'm $2,000 in debt and I'm getting charged 25% a month. Like, that's a little extreme, but that's kind of how it escalates.
That's actually what happened to me. Like, I opened up. So at a point, I had 4 credit card lines.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and well, I mean, one of them was a solid reason. Like the original Chase credit card that was mine, and then I got pre-approved for another credit card at Credit One Bank, and I honestly pulled one out for my parents for emergency.
Okay.
And I gave that to my mom, and I let my mom use it for like a month or two, like, just free it, and then I'll pay it. Because back then I was getting money, and I didn't really have much to spend. But later on, when like I needed the money, she started spending it, and then she would pay me back immediately. Just in case like it was an emergency, and my dad just didn't get paid or something. Or he just didn't make money. So they'd have that emergency fund. So like they had that emergency credit card to use under my name and stuff. And then I decided, oh, that's actually a really good idea to have like an emergency credit card. So I opened up another one with them through a separate name, under my name again, for just me. And I mean, I didn't really need to touch it, only because like I still have my Chase. I honestly just kept that for an emergency. And of course, one day I actually had an emergency, like my car broke down and like I needed to fix it, and then something like that happened, and I touched it, and it got to more of like, I don't really feel like using my Chase card today. Let me just use this. I ended up using it for like 2 years. I mean, it honestly helped me rack up points on my credit score, just having multiple lines and paying it off immediately and stuff like that. But then I started realizing that like I'm getting really reckless on spending, because I would be like, oh, I have a $500 line on this one. I'll just go to the bars and use this one, not my main one. And I ended up paying all that off and closing it immediately, because I mean, like after like a year of using it, and like, cause I got scared, I was like, shit. And then I closed it with them. Well, I didn't close it. I left it running, but I just didn't use it.
Oh,
sorry.
Thank God.
I shouldn't have said
thank
closed.
God. You scared me there a little bit, and I'll explain later as to why it scared me, but holy shit, man.
I thought about it, I was like, I shouldn't use the word close because that means something else. But I just stopped using it, and I just cut the card up. So like I have no choice to not use it. So like I think that was a smart move on me.
Oh, agreed.
That's kind of how it went with my mom's card too. Like the emergency card I gave my mom, I took it back and I cut it up and I said, let's not use this anymore. And we just don't touch it anymore. So like it's just there, not being used. So like I pretty much just got those extra cards that I don't use now, and the credit's just steady line because like it's not being used. So there's no interest being racked up. There's nothing.
It's just adding to your overall credit limit that you have as a credit card owner, as an individual person, which kind of proceeds forward and me telling you never close a credit card on your own. That is probably a big rule that a lot of people tell you. And I know for a fact people never told me why to never close a credit card until I actually understood how credit cards work. This is why you never close a credit card on your own. It is because you are limiting your own personal line of credit, which essentially makes it easier for you to tank your credit score. But there's an app that I use a lot, which is called Mint, Mint, and that's an app that I use. You put in all your credit card information, and you do put your social security number in there as well. But it's a very, very good app made by the same people that make TurboTax. What it says is, in order to keep a good credit score, you kind of have to be in debt, which is dumb, but that's just how the system works. Now, it says that you should only be using about 30% of your total credit limit across all your credit cards. Let's say, for example, you have 2 credit cards, one's $5,000 and the other one's $5,000. So essentially, your line of credit is $10,000. You're only supposed to use about $3,000, and you're supposed to never go over $3,000 on both credit cards, which means $1,500 for each credit card. That's how you kind of are able to use that $3,000 for whatever you want, but just making sure that you pay it off regularly and you pay off way more than the minimum. Now, that's how you are able to build your credit score, which is a good thing because in the future, it helps you with all these other different interest rates and cars and whatever. If you have more credit cards open with a higher line of credit, that 30%, the 30% stays the same, but the amount of money that's in that 30% gets higher, and you get to use a little bit more money and be a little bit more free to spend it. And like what Andrew said, when you have an emergency, having that extra cush 30% is, oh my God, it's a lifesaver. It really is. I am not at the 30%. I think I'm at like 50 to 60%. There are a couple reasons why it's like that currently, and I can explain that if you want, Andrew.
Yes.
So my line of credit is pretty decently high. I have a pretty good line of credit. Now, the reason why my line of credit now is so high in percentage-wise is because I spend a lot at Best Buy, like I said before. Now, the reason why for me, I think it's okay personally for me to take a little bit of a hit when it comes to my credit score is because I think like 80 to 95% of all the money that I spent on my credit card for Best Buy, it's all interest free for like another year and a half. So everything that I bought on that credit card, yes, it was expensive as hell because iPad, I think I have my camera still on there. Like there was expensive purchases on there, but they're not accumulating interest, and I'm actually making money on the things that I bought.
Right.
So it's like a win-win situation for me. So that's why my overall credit line is pretty high in the percentage, but I know that not all 60% of my total credit line is being attacked and charged with interest. So that's why I'm very much okay with having a very high credit usage because I'm not getting charged any interest on most of those purchases.
Yeah, that's a smart thing, especially with the fact that you're making money off of your purchases and you're investing in your future. That's just a smart way of going about it.
Yeah, I mean, so for that camera specifically, if I book one wedding, that camera's paid for. And I've already booked, I think, 5 to 6 weddings already. So like that camera has paid itself over 5 or 6 times. It makes sense as to why I have it, and I keep paying off that credit card and not paying it all off at once because if you pay off your credit card, your credit score just goes higher. That's also another reason why I'm okay with it. And I know that financially, like it's pretty scary to have that high of a credit usage, but it's whatever. I'll get to it eventually. I have a plan to get to it.
See, there it is. That's what I was gonna say. For you, it's different because you thought it out and you have a plan how to decrease it, and you're not just recklessly spending it.
Yeah, and on top of that, even it's me thinking about not even just paying off that essential loan of $2,000 is not because I just want to get that paid off. Yeah, I want to get that paid off, but on the bright side or the silver lining on paying off that much money is my score just keeps getting higher and higher, which in the future, when I want to buy a house and I apply for a mortgage, that interest rate on that mortgage is going to be like super duper low because of my credit score and the way that I pay off my own bills.
Right. So going off of what JD just mentioned about the whole thing, a dummied down version of what JD just mentioned is banks see it as, oh, you owe a lot of money. That's good. because they want to see how well you pay things off. The better you pay things off, that's why JD mentioned that like it's good to be in debt for your score to go up, because bank look at how often and how well you pay shit off. And the better you do that, the banks are like, oh, he's good at paying 5 things off at once. We can trust him with this one more.
And it could be like even a giant loan of like $500,000 for a house. The bank sees your previous history on how you've managed your credit card debt or how you've managed like financing your own car. Being able to see that in your history in one score, which is the credit score, they trust you and they're like, you know what? We don't have to charge him a 7% interest rate on a $500,000 loan. We'll just charge him like 2%, which those percentages are huge. When you're taking that much money from a bank, every single percentage is like thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah. So like at the end of the day, the bank's just trying to see how responsible you are.
Exactly. And that's how I'm trying to show it's just by handling all of these credit cards. And now that I'm engaged and we're trying to get married very, very soon, we are combining our finances so that when we both go in for that mortgage loan and that meeting with the bank, both of our credit scores are like 750, 775 plus. They're like, oh shit, they're both really good, when in all actuality, I'm really good. So
it's funny that you mentioned that like you and Esther are like merging, you know, because me and Ashley talked about it too, because we talked about getting married and stuff and merge. And I believe I mentioned it before, but Ashley doesn't have student loans. She got into college for free due to her father being in the military, veteran or something like that. And she was saying she doesn't owe anything to the score, anything like that. No loans or nothing. And I told her, I was like, that sucks because I do, because my debt becomes your debt. And she's like, I know. And she just rolled her eyes and I was like, sucks for you.
That's essentially flipped in mine. Yeah, I have student loans, I do, but like I understand like how to financially attack them and get them down. Esther had a lot more debt than I did, or the same amount of debt than I did, but she doesn't even have to pay student loans because her family takes care of that, which is great for her. But that just means I have to deal with all the credit card debt and the car finance and all this other stuff. And oh man, she's trying to run away from her responsibilities and dump them on me.
That's what I'm doing with Ashley. I see why Esther's doing it. Life is good.
Which, I mean, I guess kind of segues into this other conversation that I wanted to have with you, which is buying and financing things intelligently, especially with big purchases. I guess the biggest thing that people our age are like looking to buy or lease or finance or whatever is a car.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, I hate my car. I hate my car. My Hyundai Sonata she can't hear me, so I can talk as much shit about her as I want, but oh, I fucking hate that car so much. I invest so much money to keep it up, whatever. Just, I hate that car. Don't buy Hyundais. If Hyundai tries to sponsor us, just fuck no, we're not doing that shit.
We'll take Honda though.
Oh, we'll take Honda. We'll take Honda and Toyota for sure, but not Hyundai. Fuck Hyundai. And all, to be very honest, Korean car manufacturing is just garbage.
Kia
sucks. Hyundai sucks. Like, they're awful. Don't buy Korean cars. Like, we're Korean and we don't fucking buy them. We're the worst.
Buy cars from Japan.
Yeah,
Japanese made cars. Or American.
Japanese make some nice car. American are hit or miss depending on what you get.
I've appreciated American cars these days.
Yeah. But anyways, a lot of people are trying to buy and finance cars, like people our age. They're looking for cars because that's kind of like the next step. You know, you graduate college, you maybe move out of your parents' house, probably not, but then you just buy a car. You're like, I need a car to get to work and commute, all those things. For me, I think a car is literally one of the worst investments ever. Let's say, for example, just a Toyota Corolla. It's worth $20,000 brand new. That car leaves the lot. The price of that car drops like 25 to 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's ridiculous. Like, you're like, okay, $30,000, that's great. But then you leave and it drops $15,000 in value just because you drove it off the lot. Like, that's the worst investment ever. You just threw away $15,000. Like, it's just insane.
You just rolled away $15,000.
Which is why, like, people, when they buy, like, Lamborghinis or stuff like that, like, I understand, like, people have a love for cars and you have every right to invest in the things that you love and things like that. But I don't understand with the people that, like, buy, like, those expensive-ass cars, because I'm just like, this is, like, the worst investment that you could have made. It's the worst. Like, I even say that about people that get, like, Lexuses and Audis, which are a little bit higher-end common person car, but like a lower end wealthy car. Like, even those are like ridiculous.
You mean like my cousin Joe and Kev?
Yeah,
they have the
but
money.
They're rich. They have the money. But like, for people like us, we're just like, that's like even people like them, that is like the worst financial investment that you can make, is if you buy a car, but you need a car. So
yeah,
it just sucks. For me, like, in the future, I'm not gonna try to go for a Beamer or a Mercedes or anything, because I know even those cars, like, you buy them and you have like this status symbol, but you're paying $800 a month and the car actually isn't engineered very well. So you have to take it into the shop, but because it's a Beamer, you have to go to the dealership and they overcharge you for everything that, like, it's ridiculous. So that's why I will stick with Toyota and Honda for a good chunk of my life.
See, I love my car. I got a Honda Civic 2016. I got a brand new. It was Predamanje. I fucking loved it.
Again, people who listen to this podcast could be like, buy like ridiculous cars, but that's not me. I'm not doing that. I mean, tech could be the same thing, where like you buy a piece of tech, but next year it's outdated and its price is cut into half. But I mean, I made money off that, so it doesn't matter.
Right. So like the big difference with my car thing, at least, is my car was very affordable. And at the same time, it had like those, flashy looks, and it runs well because the manufacturer is Honda. It's really good.
You get the best of both worlds, and you didn't have to spend like $50,000 on a base model car. Like, you spent what, $25,000, and you're gonna use it for the rest of your life. Which gets me moving forward with the difference between financing and leasing. A lot of people my age, I feel like, don't know the difference between financing and leasing. I mean, Esther sometimes even has to text me and be like, what's the difference between it again? Here's the thing. Financing is you're buying the car. Like, it's your car, you made a loan, and you're purchasing the car. And normally financing payments are higher than leasing payments. Leasing a car is kind of like just you're renting the car. It's kind of like Enterprise, but instead of giving your money to Enterprise, the company, you're giving your money to a bank. That's essentially what leasing is. Leasing is like you're renting a car for like 3 years, and then you have the option to like bring the car back and just forget about it, and then just move to a different car. But your payments stay the same.
It's just,
so you never technically own the car. You're just renting it for a long period of time.
It just depends if you want to make the payment stop one day, or if you're okay with paying small amounts for the rest of your life if you're going to continue to lease.
Exactly. So it's a toss-up. It's really hard, especially with new cars, if you're going to finance or lease it, because you don't know how that car is going to run. Like, you could walk in there and be like, you know what, I want to finance a car, but then you're like, well, I don't know if this car is going to run for 15 plus years to make my payments worth it. Because I know for a fact my Hyundai Sonata is not that at all. It's not. If I had the option now, I would have leased it way back when, because this car's a piece of shit.
But there are rules that apply to leasing it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You have to make sure that it comes back in a sellable state. Like, the dealership wants to make money off of it, so you have to be like very nice to it.
It needs to come back in a sellable state. It needs to only be within a certain amount of mileages.
Yep.
And, like, that's hard for some people, like, especially if they travel.
Yep. And it's like regular maintenance, and it's just like there's a whole list of things that you have to do in order to keep. It's like a renter's agreement. It's like exactly like renting out an apartment. Like, you can live there, but you have rules that like you can't destroy the fucking apartment and just leave. It's exactly the same thing.
Ha ha ha.
I did whatever I wanted, and now you have to pay for it all. No, that's bullshit. You have to pay for it.
But I do like the idea of leasing. Swapping out your car every 3 years or 5 years, whatever you make your contract out to. I think that's a very, cool idea for a car.
No, I agree. And for me, I don't know. I like the idea of owning my own car as well, because then you can keep it, and then after 3 to 5 years, you don't have to pay any more payments, but you still have a car.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a toss up. It depends on like what you think, and if you want to essentially bet on if that car is going to last however long that you want it to last.
Yeah.
So there's always that. Now, I know that we've been talking a lot about debt and giant things that you have to buy and dig yourself into more debt. So I kind of want to move back into the conversation of what to do with money that you make.
Ooh, spend it.
Exactly. Like that's our initial thought. But I heard that there is a ratio of like what you should be doing with the money that you're getting. And that's the 20-20-60 rule. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of that, Andrew. Have you heard of that, the 20-20-60?
Just a glimpse of it, just because you and I have talked about it a little bit. Please remind me.
Of course. So 20% should be going to a savings account of any kind. So normally what normal individuals tend to do, 10% just goes to their 401k or any kind of retirement program that they have offered at their place of work. The other 10% just goes to a personal savings account that you have that you want to move to, which I have great recommendations for savings accounts because those are sometimes hard to find. The other 20% is literally you spend on whatever the fuck you want. So that 20% essentially you're spending or you're playing money that includes like subscription services. That's not considered essential. So things like Netflix, Hulu, Marvel Ultimate, that's what for me. Like that's part of the 20% that you want to spend on whatever the fuck you want. Now the other 60% is all essential items. So when that comes to like car leases, credit card payments, and like rents and utilities and all this stuff, that is put into the 60%, which is kind of insane when you think about it. Like you work so hard, but you can only essentially you only have 40% of the 60 or the 100%, and more goes to like just being a person that breathes in the world. Like you're paying to breathe in the world, and it's just kind of ridiculous. But that's like the golden ratio of how people should be adjusting their finances and the money that they make every month. Now, for me, this is very, very doable because I live with my fiance who is wonderful and amazing, but her occupation and her job gives her a place to live for free, essentially. So she works in a residence hall, so we get to essentially live in a nice apartment within that residence hall, rent-free. We don't have to pay for utilities. We don't even have to pay for Wi-Fi because we just use the student Wi-Fi that we have. It's nice. Like we don't have to pay for a lot of those essential items that normal people would pay. So what I do personally, I don't know if a lot of people are in that situation, or if people live at home, it's kind of like the same thing where you don't have to pay rent. So what I do personally with my money is I still try to keep the 20%. That 20% I still try to keep and be like, you know what? I work hard. I want to spend some money. So 20% still comes to me and I can spend it on whatever the fuck I want. Now, because my 60% essentials payments, like they're not there. So Esther and I use that money to pay off our credit card debts because combined we have a pretty decent amount of debt. So we're just trying to use that and attack it. But we're also saving a lot of money every month so that when we're done here and we're done with our time here at the university that we work at, we can like put a huge down payment on a house and have all this money saved up for a kid, a wedding, and not in that order. It would be wedding, kid, and then the house. But that's just kind of the way that we've been thinking, and we're using a lot of that 60% essential ratio portion to our future, and that's how we're kind of doing that. So we're using all of the things that the benefits that we have to invest into our future. But yeah, so because I have so many things that I don't have to pay for, which is very, very nice, and I'm like completely raking in the benefits of that, Esther and I have a lot of leeway when it comes to our finances. And also it helps that we're a dual income family. So it really does help. So that's how we've been attacking our debt, and we could talk about attacking our debt later, but yeah.
My turn. Well, unlike JD, I am not on a salary job. So compared to him, I am making very little money. Also, I have a lot of essentials that I have to pay for. So that 60% is kind of like 98% for me. And like the 2% that I have to spend on literally all goes to pretty much gas and, food. Hardly food, mostly gas, especially these days.
Especially these days with all the pandemic shit going on.
Yeah, and the fact that I moved from 15-minute drive to work to 45 to an hour.
One way. Yeah. I don't know, man. That sounds like that was a personal decision on your part. And we talked about it earlier, didn't we?
Yeah, but honestly, it's the drive and the gas is worth it for me right now because nothing can compare to like what I get out of being here.
Of course, yeah. No, that's completely understandable, and that makes a lot of sense. It's just right now, financially, we're all kind of fucked with the pandemic that's been going around. Even me that, essential worker and all that, get paid the same amount as I normally do, but it's still hard financially because there's like, we just know that after this pandemic is done and over, the economy is going to be shot to hell. It's going to be a recession. It's going to take a long time for everything to hopefully bounce back. President Trump thinks that, it's just going to be fine. We're going to be great. It'll be the best. But that's complete bullshit. Like, you can't just take unemployment from like over 20% of Americans to 6 in less than a month. Like, that just doesn't make any there's just no way. There's just so many small businesses and other things that are liquidating their assets to just make it through this pandemic.
A huge thing right now, unemployment checks. There are a lot of people who are making more money off of those than their regular jobs. So a lot of small businesses, regular businesses are going to struggle finding employees to come back to.
Agreed. Which, like, even right now, trying to find a job is like almost impossible because everyone's looking for a job, and if they're not, they're just living off unemployment. So in normal times, there's a lot of different things that I do to make some extra money and extra pocket money, which increases at like 20% of like, I can buy whatever the fuck I want. There's a lot of extra things that I do on top of my day job to get some extra money. So for me personally, I do photography. I'm a freelance photographer. I do weddings, and that actually brings in, over the past couple of years, it's brought in like maybe $4,000 to $5,000 extra a year, which is like being able to do like freelance stuff and using my own abilities to like make some extra money. Hell yeah, I'm going to do it. I used to do that with another company that I used to work with, which is now struggling because of the pandemic. But I used to work for a company that was based out in Chicago called BCV Social. They were a social media company that did social media for luxury hotels, which are not doing well right now. But that's what I did for like maybe like 1 or 2 shifts a week. And that was an extra $200 a week that I would just make. I mean, there was a lot of different things that I did to make some extra money. And I know even Andrew has done a few. I know that like even streaming on Twitch was a side hustle. Like, you might not have gotten like $500 a week, but it was still something extra that you enjoy doing, and you just happen to make some little bit of pocket money with.
Yeah, for me it was like, instead of weekly income for Twitch, it's a monthly payment. For me it was, I mean, when I was streaming regularly, I was getting like 100 minimum a month, because that's the payout for like what you have to make to get paid out. So I was making a minimum of 200, or not 200, 100. It was nice, like, especially because it's my hobby too of playing games. And I get to talk to some awesome people while I'm playing games and just hang out, pretty much. So, like, that was my extra chunk change.
Even if you think about it and you put it in, like, a yearly perspective, that's $1,200 a year. That's a lot of money.
It is.
Just sitting down and doing what you love and making money off of that, why wouldn't you do that?
Exactly.
There are a lot of different ways that you can make extra money. I mean, I know my cousin, she just recently bought a home, and mortgages are expensive, but she and her fiance are doing a lot of extra things outside of their own day jobs in order to make up a little bit more for that extra house money that they need to spend. So they have a pretty big house. They have like a 3 or 4 bedroom house for just them. So they rent out a bedroom, so there's some extra income that helps with the mortgage. They also do an Airbnb on one of the spare bedrooms, so that's like extra cash that comes into their accounts. And I know for a fact that the fiance, he does Uber and Lyft every once in a while whenever they need some extra money. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can find things that you love to do and make some extra money off of it. I don't know about now, but I mean, those are very much options even now, because you can do like Uber Eats or Grubhub. Like, you can deliver. Yeah, you're putting yourself at risk, but at least you're making some extra side money.
And I know Esther did one, walking dogs.
I was just about to mention she did Rover, which is like you walk dogs, you babysit dogs or pets or something like that, and you get paid for it. She loves dogs. She loves our dogs. And she's like, hey, why not make some money off of it? So, I mean, she was raking in almost $100 a week just walking a dog every day for 30 minutes, Monday through Friday. That's 30 minutes a day for $100 a week. That's insane. Like, there's so many ways that you can make money.
Yeah. I think it just goes to how much work you're willing to put in.
And how much, like, you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but it's just something that I'm more than happy to do because, one, I would get bored otherwise, but it's something that I love to do, and if I can make some money off of it, like, why the fuck not? What I'm hoping maybe in the future is like this podcast will really pop off and maybe we get some sponsorships or something. I don't fucking know what's going to happen, but being able to find ways to express ourselves and do something that we both love, but then also make some money off of it, like, why wouldn't you take that chance?
Right. This could be a huge chunk change.
Exactly. It could be. And as much as, okay, we're not in this for the money. Like, we don't even know how much money can be made in a podcast. It's just, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, that's fine, because we're more than happy with the payout that we get. That's not a financial payout, but like just being able to like converse and talk to you and talk to each other, as you know,
and potentially meet some great people outside of just me and you. Like, maybe we have a listener who lives out in Colorado who'd love to give us a shout out or something, or like, you know, anything is possible with these are opportunities we are creating for ourselves.
Exactly. And it's better than just sitting on our asses not doing anything, but we're just pursuing something that we both found and we both enjoy doing. And why wouldn't we take that chance and open that door and have the chance for opportunities to come to us?
Right. And at the end of the day, if we don't get any like big opportunities or anything like that, me and JD, we don't care. We are talking. We are best friends. We get to catch up on each other's lives, see each other through this video call, and just talk.
And I think that's another thing that we can talk about for a little bit is we can talk about what payouts actually are.
Right.
You know, like, I know a lot of people think payouts is like, oh, it's just money, it's just financials. But no, it can be anything. It could be like just happiness or just having a conversation with your best friend. And that could be a payout, that you invest your time, you invest your hard work to do something, and you're able to get payouts that are not just monetary payouts, but you can get like emotional payouts and like other things like that. And this is life. Like, we just want to have fun with it, and we don't want to be too serious about fucking work all the damn time. So opening up a podcast and getting really excited about the Rodecaster Pro that we're getting in a few days. Like, we spent so much money on some of this gear, but we're not making anything of it. It's just like we're having fun with it, and we're investing in something that we love, and that investment pays out in joy, happiness, and conversations, and hopefully being able to help anybody that's listening to this podcast out there. Because with the topic that we're talking about today, like, I didn't really have anybody to ask questions about my personal finances. I had to do a lot of my learning, and a lot of my failures came from me trying different things.
I mean, backtracking a little bit, that's literally what, the payout it was for me. I was hurting emotionally, physically. JD was there for me because of this. I mean, not just because of this, but like this helped a lot. And that was my payout.
And this was like a result of that pain and that suffering. And we got to have a podcast that's on for like 14 episodes. Like a lot of people don't even make it past 10. And we're just happy that we're making these milestones, and we're happy, and we're just continually moving forward because we want to, not because we feel obligated to.
Pursue the pursuit of happiness.
Last episode.
That's the last episode.
I love
That's
it.
right. See, like that is the payout for me, honestly. That's why, like, even like previous episodes, I said JD will we signed a contract. I know how much work I have put into this, because what I was getting out of this is different. What it was different from what JD put into it. JD put in more work, and I know it. He'll get more money from it if we ever make money out of it. But I'm already winning in this case because I'm already getting a payout, a whole bunch in my perspective.
I think that really kind of segues to my last point that I had written down in big ass letters on my notepad is you should be happy with the payouts and the money that you have, and you should learn how to use the money to make you even happier. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how you use it and how you invest in your own happiness. And if buying cars makes you happy, that's great. That's what your happiness brings. And if you're willing to invest in it, fuck it, do whatever you want. That's just not me. For me, it's technology. And when Andrew was talking about all the things that we're like investing in and all the time that I put in to finding gear for us, that's not because I feel obligated or like, oh, this will make us more money. It's like, no, it's just something that I genuinely enjoy, and I'm more than willing to invest in like ample amounts of technology that'll help or make our podcast the way that we want it to be.
Right.
That's exactly what you have to do. You have to be happy with the money and the payouts that you have, and use the money that you do accumulate and you have to make it to your own advantage. And I think that's the last point that I wanted to make on this topic, because it doesn't matter if you're making $1 million. If you're not happy, then what's the fucking point?
Right. I mean, you know what? You hear that a lot too. Like, a lot of millionaires are depressed. Like, a lot of like poorer people are saying like, how can you be depressed? It's because they don't appreciate the little things, I feel like.
Exactly. And you kind of lose that when you kind of are making that like amount of money. You're just like, oh, I just have a lot of money, I could just buy happiness now. And it doesn't work like that. You have to be genuinely invested in the things that you love, and spend money on the things that you want, or invest your time, money, whatever. And you just got to be happy with the payout that comes from it.
I think that was a great, saying, like, be happy with what you got.
And I think that's like a great way to end the episode, because that's just the way I feel. And just remember that everything that we said in this podcast is all subjective. Like, some things may not work in your area. Like, if you live in the rural areas, maybe Rover isn't the best thing, or Airbnb isn't the best thing that you can do, but maybe there are other things that you can do as side hustles to make some extra cash. Like maybe starting a podcast even. It's not, we have like a bunch of just random gear and we're investing in more gear, but you don't need any of this shit. Like, you can buy a $60 microphone or just use your phone memo app and you can make a podcast, just as long as the content is there and is something that people are interested in and want to listen to. Like, go for it. Just upload, which is what we're fucking trying to do. But we want our album artwork, and it's so close, and we're supposed to be getting soon, but our freelancer is not working on our shit, and we are getting a little frustrated, but we understand that COVID-19 is fucking everybody's schedule up, so we're trying to be understanding, but this guy is really, really, really kind of pulling at our last nerves. But hopefully after this episode, which has been recorded on May 8th. Holy shit, it's May. On May 8th, and we're just trying to get these episodes out because we've recorded 14 episodes and uploaded 0. So we're getting there, fam. We're getting there.
No. We uploaded. We just haven't published it.
That's right. We uploaded. We haven't published. There's a big difference. And if you guys want to learn more, then we're going to have to go to a different episode because we actually have an episode idea of the nuances of opening up and starting a new podcast. So hopefully that episode comes in the future. But without our album artwork, we may never upload it. So you guys may never even fucking hear it. So we'll just like draw something on my iPad and be like, fuck it. This is what it's going to be for a few days.
So we have artwork. It's edited versions of it. We have artwork. It's just we're waiting for edits. That shouldn't take longer than 20 minutes, honestly.
And he told us today at 11 a.m. saying, just give me a few hours. It is now 7 p.m. and there is nothing.
And that was after he told us it was going to be delivered 24 hours ago.
No, even it was supposed to be delivered last week. It's supposed to be due like at the end of April. Like, what I'm hoping is COVID is locking everybody down, but he's getting a lot of business because people want to do something with graphic design work or whatever and logo making, because that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping his business is going up and that's why it's taking a little while. But if he just has us as clients, he's an asshole.
It's whatever. You know, I'm happy.
Whatever. We'll figure it. We like the logo. We're just fucking waiting.
Yeah. Ashley just came home. She brought me food. I'm happy. What's not to be happy about?
Be happy with the things that you got, man. Be happy. That's gonna be I think that's gonna be like our overall motto for our podcast. Just be fucking happy. Just be happy.
Don't be an asshole. Be happy.
I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Up Until Now podcast. We, again, are just 25-year-olds trying our best with the things that we've been given, and we hope that any part of this podcast helped you in some way. And if you guys have any questions when it comes to finances or really just questions in general, feel free to email us. And Andrew, where do they email us? Where do they get in contact with us?
You guys can email us at upuntilnowpodcast@gmail.com. Also check out our Instagram with the handle of upuntilnowpodcast. And please comment, rate, and just let us know how we're doing. Give us ideas. Let us know what we're doing good in, what we're doing bad in. We'll try fixing it. We want to cater towards you, along with catering towards ourselves, obviously.
Yes, exactly. And I just thought of this, but when we were talking about savings account, I told you the guys that I have a recommendation. I highly recommend looking into Ally Bank. They have some pretty great savings accounts with some great interest return rates. So that's, if you're looking to save some money, look into Ally Bank. They have some great initiatives to save. So highly recommend that. And episode 14, finally, Eric has dropped his third track, and we are using that as our intro and our outro for this episode. Again, Eric, thank you so much for letting us use your music, and we wish it came a little bit earlier, but we have it, and we're happy about it. It sounds really, really great. If you guys want to listen or see more of Eric's work or even download Eric's work, he has an Instagram page and a SoundCloud account with the handle ch.tunes. Again, that's ch.tunes. If you guys do decide to download his music and use it in any way, please remember to tag him or really give him credit for it, because he has some really chill stuff that Andrew and I really enjoy. And if you can just spread the word about his work, we're always happy to promote our friends' passion projects and other things like that. Which also, if we're doing that, Andrew's streaming account is on Twitch. What's the username?
twitch.tv/wwjoond.
Yep, so that's Andrew's Twitch account, and my Instagram is jeddy.jpeg. That's jetty.jpeg. So follow us. Andrew's Instagram account is linked in our bio as well on Instagram. So please feel free to follow us. We're pretty open about our lives on social media and just life in general. So feel free to reach out, because we would love to hear from you. And just the fact that we're 14 episodes in and we haven't heard from one of you, because technically there's no listeners yet, but yeah, we're very, very anxious to hear from you guys. And thank you for taking a listen, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.